Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, it's great to meet you. I'm Stella, and I love making miniatures for my Barbie's dollhouse using mostly cardstock. In today's video, I'll show you how to make this miniature folding table and chair for your dolls, and as always, have free printable templates to help you make your own version. You'll find all the info and a download link in the video, so now let's begin, shall we? We'll start by cutting this part of the template twice, and we'll glue the two pieces together. As usual, I suggest using cardstock from old packaging for this, since, well, we generally have plenty of it in our recycling bin. Plus, it's nice and sturdy, but still super easy to cut. You can use a cutting machine if you have one, or just regular scissors. And for the finer parts, a penknife and manicure scissors. Next, we'll cut this part, and we'll actually need to cut each little slat a few times and stack the layers together until they're about 3 millimeters thick. And if you own a cutting machine with a heavy-duty blade, or even better, a laser cutter, you can glue all the layers of cardstock together first, and then just cut the slats once from this thicker material. The result will be the same, but it'll save you some time. We'll glue the resulting slats to the cardstock base we prepared at the beginning, this way. And by the way, you could use craft sticks instead of paper for the slats. I really like repurposing old packaging, so that's my go-to method, but both work great. Next, we'll cut this circle twice, and we'll glue 2 layers to the top and bottom of the previous ones. The resulting panel should measure roughly 5 millimeters in thickness. We'll cover its edge with these strips, and for this part, I suggest using a lightweight type of cardstock since it's thinner and easier to bend. Time to turn paper into wood, or at least we'll try to make it look like wood. We'll begin by applying a thick layer of acrylic gesso to the entire surface. This will strengthen the cardstock, and if we use a stiff bristled brush, it'll create a nice texture with grain effect. Next, we'll paint the surface with a nice shade of brown acrylic, and here's a little trick. Right after applying the paint, go over it lightly with either a clean brush or a piece of paper towel. This removes some of the paint and gives the finish a more realistic, uneven look. Once the paint has dried, as always, I recommend sandwiching the cardstock between 2 layers of parchment paper, then pressing it under something heavy like a big book for a few hours. This will flatten the cardstock, and the parchment paper will absorb any leftover moisture, preventing the panel from warping over time. Now that the tabletop is done, let's start working on the folding mechanism. We'll begin by cutting this part 3 or 4 times, and then we'll stack all the layers together. Now, if you're using my free printable template, I suggest piercing these small holes with an awl, but if you have a cutting machine like a Cricut, a Silhouette, or an M1 Ultra like mine, you can use my digital templates, and they're available in my shop, linked in the description. We'll repeat the same process to make a second identical piece, both about 2 millimeters thick. Just as we did for the tabletop, we'll coat these bars with acrylic gesso first, and then with brown acrylic. And you can find the colors and all the other supplies I used for this project linked in the description in case you're curious. Now, I've gotta be honest with you, when it was time to assemble the legs, I realized the placement of this hole was way off. Thankfully, I was able to fix it, and the right version is gonna be included in the template. Next, we'll cut this part several times, and we'll stack all the layers until we'll have a piece that's about 4 millimeters thick. We'll have to make 3 more identical pieces. After that, we'll cut this part multiple times, and we'll glue all the layers in 2 groups, each 4 millimeters in thickness. Then we'll cut this 3 or 4 times, and we'll glue all the layers together just like before. The final piece should be about 2 millimeters thick. We'll repeat the same process for this part. And we should end up with all these pieces, which we'll have to paint black. To assemble our folding legs, we'll need some flathead eye pins, or even just a piece of metal wire. We'll slide the first eye pin into this hole in one of the wood-colored bars, and out through this hole in the first leg. Then we'll trim the excess and secure the eye pin with a drop of glue or UV resin. Next, we'll slide a second eye pin into the second hole in the wooden bar, and out through the hole in the tiny brace. Then we'll connect the brace to the second leg. And finally, we'll join the 2 legs through the holes in their centers. We'll repeat the same process for the second set of legs, but this part needs to be mirrored. And finally, we'll connect them using these small bars. At this point, we can glue the tabletop to the legs. And our little folding table is ready. Now that we've mastered a simple folding mechanism, we can move on to a slightly more complicated one. Yes, I'm talking about folding chairs. We'll start by cutting this part several times and we'll stack all the layers until we have a final piece that's about 4 millimeters thick. We'll repeat the process to make a second identical piece, and then we'll do the same for this part, which we also need to make twice. We'll end up with these 4 legs, which we'll have to paint black. Once the paint is dry, we'll connect each pair of legs by sliding an eye pin through these holes. And make sure that both sets are assembled as mirror images, with the longer leg on the outside and the shorter one on the inside. To create a folding seat, we'll start by cutting this part 4 times and gluing the layers in pairs like this. Next, we'll cut this part 3 or 4 times and we'll stack all the layers together. The final piece should be 2 millimeters thick, and we'll have to make it twice. We'll repeat the same step for this part. And we should end up with these 6 pieces, which we'll have to paint black. We'll glue these 4 bars like this. And then we'll connect the braces using a couple of eye pins. We'll attach the resulting piece to the back legs first. And finally, we'll connect the braces to the front legs this way. Next, we'll cut this part 3 or 4 times and we'll stack all the layers together. We'll do the same for this part. And we should end up with these 2 bars, both 2 millimeters in thickness. We'll paint them black. And now we'll glue the shorter bar to the back legs and the longer one to the front. With the basic structure ready, we can start working on the seat. First, we'll cut this part twice and we'll glue the 2 sides together. Then we'll cut all these slats, and similar to what we did for the table, we'll cut each one 2 or 3 times and stack the layers to make them thicker. We'll glue all the slats on top of the base we prepared earlier this way. And then we'll paint the resulting piece, which should measure roughly 2 or 3 millimeters, first with acrylic gesso, and then with brown acrylic. We'll glue the seat to the chair structure this way. Then we'll cut this part, and just like before, we'll need to cut and stack together 3 or 4 layers for each little slat, so that the final piece is a bit thicker. We'll coat the slats with a layer of acrylic gesso first, and then we'll paint them with brown acrylic. Finally, we'll glue them to the top half of the chair structure to create the backrest. And our tiny folding table and chairs are ready. Don't you just want to have a picnic? Speaking of which, stay tuned because I've got something cool in the works. As promised, here's a link to the free printable template, and if you want to learn how to make a cute little dollhouse swing, you may enjoy watching this video next. And this is all for today. Until next time, bye!